All right, guys. No new people, so hope you guys did your little homework. I did. So last time we talked about tagging, and you're supposed to tag elevation 3 and then set up all of your detailed numbers and your elevation numbers for all of your tags. I also added a tagline here for the horizontal above the door, which wasn't there before. And it looks like this elevation here continues. It's kind of an L-shaped, where it just gets taller and it continues on the next page. So so I didn't put the vertical here because this vertical is actually probably going to be longer and go off the page, so it would be kind of difficult to do. So I just left it like that. Hopefully you guys found the same problems and kind of did the same thing. Also spliced all of these. Well, it's hard to say that, but splice all these right here. And we should be good on tags. We may be adding extra tags later depending on what we find, but this should be good. Any questions about what we did last time? And any questions about your homework? All right. So day 2 here. We're gonna start by setting up some of the project data, which is gonna let the Takeoff program know what is on each tagline, what parts are there and how long they are and that kind of stuff. And then we're also going to do layout so that it knows exactly where they are in relationship to the tagline. And in doing that, we may make some new parts. And if there's still some time after that, we'll probably hit up UPD and BIM just so we have a nice finish to the end of this day so you can see where we're heading. Because right now it's still kind of, there's no results yet. All right, so let's talk about project data. Oh, I also put this, all this text here is also on the meeting request. I sent an update last night. I'm going to continue to send updates for the sort of lesson outline as I flush it out. And as when I actually figure out where day 3 starts and stops and all that stuff, I'll just be updating it and continuously updating your meeting request. We're also recording this, and I will be probably putting it up on YouTube for you guys to see. I forgot to record yesterday's, but from now on it'll be recorded and I'll put them on YouTube probably each day that we finish one of these. All right, so let's do some project data. So as I said before, quickly at the end of last lesson, there's what's called I call it sometimes the UD window or the project details window. And you open that up by using the UD command. And the UD command will ask you for you to select a circle or for a detail bubble or a tagline or a mark number or something like that. But you can also just hit enter and not pick anything. And that will just simply open the thing. And right now it is completely empty because we started with brand new projects. So this thing kind of follows sort of a parent-child relationship. The first box here is detail, and this is where you would list your different details. Under each one of these, whichever one you have selected, there will be a set of uses under that. And these are the names of the taglines that will be under that detail. Under each of these, when you select them, it'll show an assembly, which is each line item in this is the part that goes along with that tagline. And then under each part, there are child miscellaneous items which go along with that. We're not gonna cover miscellaneous today. That'll be another day. I don't like to do it that early. We're kind of aiming for metal takeoff at this point, so we just want to do the extrusions, the metal extrusions for this for these taglines, not necessarily the miscellaneous stuff. So let's see, where shall I start? I'm just going to start with something simple like this sill. So this sill tagline I've assigned to detail 1 on 501. So I'm going to add information for 1 on 501. And remember, whenever you're typing out one of these in the Takeoff program, a detail number, you always use a backslash. So this is detail 1 on 501. We're going to skip all these. Actually, description is just for you, for your reference. It's really helpful when you're working with other people as well. You can say things like, this is a sill, which helps give everyone a heads up what this thing is. I like to put just something simple like that, maybe typical sill, something like that. So under this detail, now that I have it selected, I can add uses to this detail. So the use that I'm starting with here is just called sill. It's the name of the tagline. So this will be sill. Again, description's optional. Don't have to fill it out. And then under this use, I have certain parts that I want to put under there. So I'm going to open up the 501 detail. I'm going to try to open up the 501 detail. I'm going to open it up in a separate sheet so I can flip back and forth. And you should do the same. So we're going to use the detail file directly for the next step. So this is 1 on 501 over here in this corner. So I need to put in all the parts that are going to be on that tagline is going to represent. So I definitely want the magenta parts, these 4 parts here. So I'll start with that. So I usually like to start with the main body, which is T754-1100. Like that. We also want the pressure bar here, which is T604-5319. And the cover, T604-5521. And this filler here, T754-2200. All right. We also, in addition to those 4 parts, we have this part here, which is a shear block clip. This attaches to the vertical, and it so the horizontals can sit on it and be attached to the whole wall. So we're going to need 1 on each side. You can actually, I don't think it actually says here. But yeah, the shear block clip goes on each side of the horizontal. So there would be 1 here and 1 here, attaching this to the verticals. So I need 2 of these, so I'm going to put it in there twice. T754-2600. Just like that. Got a little message pop up there, but nothing too important there. Right, those are my parts. Again, none of this is saved. If you're in the Takeoff program directly, everything is saved as soon as you type it in. But when you're out in AutoCAD, none of this is actually saved to the Takeoff program until you hit apply. So I'll just hit apply now. All right, so my main goal right now is to get all the parts in the right place with the right length and the right finish. So right now I have all my parts, at least for the sill, I have all my parts. I also need them in the right position. So the next thing we're going to focus on is the position of the parts. And to let the takeoff program know that, we run what is called layout. So you'll see up here at the use level under SIL. Oh, sorry. Are there any questions about that before I move on? Make sure you're with me on this point because we're going to do some more complicated stuff really soon.
Have the dies been created for these parts yet?
I don't know. We're going to find out. That's also part of my list here. So we're going to run layout, and by running layout, we're going to find out if there are any missing dies, and then I'll show you how to make those too, if there are any. I'm assuming because these are tech wall parts that they are going to be in there. So if everything happens to be in there, I'll just show you how to make a part, that isn't part of the system, or maybe we'll find one on a later detail or something like that. But yeah, I do plan to go over that later today. And if we don't run into it, we're gonna make something up. And maybe it's also very possible that you'll run into it and I won't, because we're working off of different servers. Any other questions? All right, so we're gonna run layout on this thing. So hopefully you have all these parts in there. You also want to have the detail open and you want to be in model space, which I am. And then you run this green plus button here, like that. So it's asking me, it started a command in AutoCAD called use layout, and it's asking for the tagline location point. So that basically is where the tagline is in relationship to this detail. So the tagline on the elevation, if we look at it, is at the top of the sill. So it's going to be up here somewhere. Also, the way you should consider the takeoff program, or at least your taglines, is that they're always at the face of system, which is indicated by this dimension point here. So it's going to be the intersection. It's this face, the surface of the elevation, and it's at the top of the sill. So this is the point where the tagline is. So I just click there. I'm getting a little message about stuff because of AEC objects. That's interesting. There we go. You probably don't get those messages if you've disabled them, but this is a new computer for me, so I haven't quite disabled them yet. So what it did is it dropped in this block, this dynamic block here, which represents the face of the system and the direction of the interior of the building. And it put it right where you said the tagline is. This is the tagline location, where the center of this circle. It also dropped in all the parts that I typed in. So it dropped in the main body part, 1100, and all these other guys. It's also color coded over here if you get confused. So this one's pink. You might have to, this box might be selected so it'll look blue, but if you pick a different box, it'll actually show you the real color. So this one's magenta, green, red, and the colors here on these parts correspond. So the whole idea of this, you're in a sort of block edit mode, and you're supposed to move, use normal AutoCAD commands, move, rotate, and mirror to line all these parts up relative to this little widget, this block. So I'm just going to use the move command, move this to where it should be, move this guy to where it should be, et cetera, et cetera. Now there may be some differences, like you can see here, I didn't quite line that up because the detail shows fillets and this part is squared off, so I have to adjust that a little bit. Oh, so again, another weird point. Maybe I should just move it based on the center. Yeah, that lines up much better. Okay. This thing too. So there's 2 shear block clips, so I have 2 of them to line up. Like that. This guy goes down here. Again, this one isn't quite lined up. All right, and my pressure bar. So what we're doing is graphically telling the takeoff program where all these parts are relative to the tagline that we drew on the elevation. Did all the parts come in for you guys? I'm guessing they should have. Because these are all standard parts that should be on all the servers. So in addition to moving these things, you can also use rotate and mirror if you need to flip something around. You also want to deal with this dynamic block here. I'm going to get rid of my quick properties window. All right. So the important thing about this thing is there's a couple little grips here. There's this one here, which rotates the interior direction. So if this was like a segment or a corner, you might have to rotate this thing to make sure it points directly inside the building. And then this guy here moves the glass pocket line, which for this detail should be right here. So you can see here, now that I've separated those two, Faces System is this green line, which should be where the tagline is located. It's always like that. And then glass pocket is an offset from that line into the building where the back glass pocket is. And this is one of the more important things to line up on your wall. So this is important for segmented walls and corners and that kind of thing to make sure that your glass pockets line up. It's also very useful for standard data. So if you're just making your project in a bubble and you're not saving any of the data that you're making for use on future projects with similar details, then it almost doesn't matter what you do with glass pocket because it's not actually used in any of the calculations. But if you are planning to build a library of data with this data here being reused between jobs, this glass pocket's very useful because it allows you to, if the Faces system of this detail shifts out because it has a extended cover maybe that goes out 2 inches or whatever, it makes it really easy so that you can change your layouts without actually running layout. You just change the number from the glass pocket to the Faces system, and I'll show you that in a second. So once you're all done with this, up in your ribbon, it should have added a save changes, discard changes options up here. And you just want to save the changes. Is everyone with me?
Good so far.
Good so far. Okay. So saving changes, then it asks you apply changes to other uses or taglines. Right now, there's only one use in our whole job. So it doesn't matter really what I pick here. And it's done. And you'll see here that it filled out some of the information for me. This pocket number is the distance between the Faces system to that glass pocket, which is 2 inches for this detail. Angle is 90, which is based off of that interior angle arrow that I was moving around. It filled in, what it should have filled in is invert, offset, displacement, angle, and setback based on the movements and stuff that I used to align all those parts. And it did that for me automatically without me having to measure, which is super annoying. So again, none of this stuff is saved until I hit apply. So I'm just going to hit apply right now to make sure everything is good. All right. That was layout. Let's do another one. Let's do a vertical. Let's do this jam, which is 2 on 565. Same thing, make sure you're in model space. This is 2 on 565 over here. Shimmy it over there so I can see all the part numbers, not quite far enough. So I'm dealing with 2 on 565. Just going to call this jam L. My use will be jam L. Very important, you should hit this vertical checkbox, and you should do it before you run layout. This lets the program know that this is a vertical, and it will change the answers of your layout. So it's very important for that to be checked before you actually run your layout. So jam, and for my part numbers, I usually start with the main body, T754 4100. Let's see, we got the pressure bar again, same pressure bar, 5319. Cover T604 5521. Filler T754 2200. And here there's also a T-clip. I could have included the T-clip in the sill. I could have put it in the sill data. I could have put it in the vert data. It's interesting. You kind of have options with that thing. I almost don't like to put it in the actual vertical, because it, at least for us in Fremont, if I put it in the jam, the mark number for the T clips or the L clips or whatever that you want to call them, they go with the jam, so they'll be up here in the middle. But if I put them on a separate, if I add another tagline to this whole thing and put them up here, put those other taglines up here, then I'll get the mark number up here and up here, which I think the field likes better. At least our field likes that better. So it does add a bunch of extra taglines to this whole thing, but it ends up a much cleaner product, and it gives you also more flexibility. You can choose to do some weird steel T-clip here instead of the normal one, just by changing what the tagline is, and you don't have to mess with the vertical at all. So I'm going to leave the T-clip out. Those are the kind of things that only experience will tell you or give you insight onto how to do it. Most of the time, you just want to put everything in it, use as few taglines as possible and try and throw everything in there. But there are some things that are just better outside of that tagline and in a different tagline. So running with just these parts, you'll see that I got some of the, for the parts that are shared between the sill and the jam, these two, I automatically, when I typed in these parts, got the layout from the sill detail. So I expect these to change when I run the layout again. I'm gonna hit apply just to make sure I don't lose it. When you hit apply, sometimes this thing all switches around on you, so just keep an eye on it. So jam L, make sure that's checked if it needs to be. And we have the detail open, we're in model space, so we can hit the screen plus button under the use. So I put the taglines on the right side of this mullion. So we're talking about the face of system here, which is indicated by dim point again, and the right side of the mullion, which is here. Getting these AEC messages. Need to disable those before next time. And here we go. So you can see in my UD window that it already has the pocket of 2, because it assumes your whole project has the same sort of pocket dimension. So when it drew the layout, it already had my glass pocket at 2, which it's hard to see because the real mullion is hidden a little bit, but that is in the right spot. And then again, I want to put all these in the right, the places where they need to be. This part needs to be mirrored, so I'm going to run mirror command. Just flip it around. when you're doing a mirror inside of layout, you always want to erase the source object. Otherwise, it may get confused. So I can move that to here. It kept this thing already looks like it's in the same place. So the layout actually matches the sill. Looks like the layout for this one also matches the sill. And this one also matches. So the only thing I had to do was move that one. That's pretty good. And that's everything on this detail. So I'm going to hit Save Changes. That filled out invert, offset, displacement, angle, and setback, the 5 layout parameters inside this box. And I just hit Apply to save it. Most important thing to take away from running this layout is you got to make sure this box is checked. That will save you so much heartache. When you forget to click that box and you run layout, you're going to get all these things will be wrong. And when we go on to the next step, the BIM model, nothing will be in the right place and you'll be wondering why. It's the other jam. Let's see, let's do one more and then the rest of them can be homework. Should we do something interesting? Yeah, let's do this corner. So this is 1 on 552, corner R. So let's open up that one. 552. All right. So 1 on 552. Oops. Corner R. Sure. That's the name of my tagline, corner R. Again, this is a vertical thing, so check that right away before you forget. Now we got to put in all these part numbers. So T7545109. Then we have this thing in the back, T7545409. That snaps on. Ooh, that's an interesting thing with the glass. I've never seen that before. You also have this sort of break shape piece out in front. So again, you have a choice of where you want to run that. I'm not going to put that in this vertical. Now, the main reason for that is this piece is going to run between the sill and the horizontal, and then between the horizontal and the next horizontal, and then the horizontal and the head. So I'm going to actually need 3 of these pieces, and they are going to vary in length depending on how far apart all those horizontal members are. So I actually need to put this on another tagline, one that that only runs those lengths. So I can't really put it in here. It's not even an option. So for this guy, we only have 2 parts. Gonna run layout. It doesn't look like a green box. There we go. Green plus. The button still works even if it doesn't look like the right button. So the tagline location, I put the tagline out here, which is the faces system for both of the walls that come together here. You want to make sure that you're always on the faces system with your layouts. My fun little message about AEC objects. Okay, now where I put this tagline over here, it's on the sort of left face of the corner. So because the tagline is here, the face of system is the left face of the corner. So it should match where you actually have your tagline. Glass pocket should be the same. I probably never have to move this again. If you find that it is in the wrong place, it's probably because you put the tagline in the wrong place. Or I guess it could be that the shop drawings don't have a consistent face of system dimension point. So that could be one of the reasons. But it should always be in the same place. All right, so again, just moving this thing around, putting it in the right place. This one I have to rotate 45 degrees. This one also rotate. I'm also looking to make sure that the part looks like the part in the detail, because if there's any issue there, then then there could be something, you know, like the die is out of date, the shop drawings are out of date, I don't have the right die, it hasn't been finished yet, something like that. So this is a corner, so the interior direction doesn't point this way, it points inward by 45 degrees. So I'm just going to use the midpoint of this thing, and it's probably pretty good. You can also look at the properties on this thing. And let me pull that over into the screen. So at the very bottom, there's the use angle, and it should be 135. So you could just type it in there too. So that's the layout on this one. Gonna hit save changes. Got all this stuff filled out here, and I'll hit apply. Pop me back up to the sill there, but here's the corner. All right, let's do one more. We'll do this break shape because I know for a fact that that won't be on the server. So we can also get into the next topic, which is doing the new parts. So I need to make a tag for that and a tag name. So let's just draw the tag first. Where do I want to draw the tag? I really hate putting tags on top of other tags because it just makes things hard. So, because if I want to pick one, I have to fight through AutoCAD's interface. So I'm going to call this trim or break shape, maybe BS for break shape corner, something like that. I don't know. And I'll fill all this other stuff out after I draw it. I'm going to run it the exact length that I want it to be. So it should be from the bottom of the horizontal to the sill here. And where do I want to put it? I like to put these things in a whole inch away from other taglines. That way it's easy to pick. Also, it's an easier number to type, not like a quarter of an inch or half an inch. But whatever you do pick, it has to be consistent. So I'm going to consistently put this on the outside because I feel like this is an outside part. I'm going to put it on the 1 inch outside of the corner piece. So I'll move it from perpendicular here 1 extra inch like that. Now that may not be the easiest place to put it because maybe on the inside over here was the easiest place because then it's really easy to get it the right length. But I don't know. I'm willing to sacrifice that just to have it out here. Yeah, let's just put it out there. I'm going to use copy. Copy from here to there. And I'll stretch that into here. So this needs to be stretched up so that it matches the head. And this one here. So that's my plan for the tagline. I have 3 parts for that break shape. I'm going to save this drawing before I forget. before it crashes. Here they are right here. You could put them on the same detail number, which is probably what I'm going to do, as the corner. So the corner is 1 on 552. So I'm going to make all four of those, or those three, 1 on 552. All right. And this is elevation 2. Ignore that guy. All right. Save that again. Back to my data. So I put it under the same detail. It just has a different tagline name. So I'm going to add another tagline here, BS corner. There's no case sensitivity on these names here. So you can, but it's, I don't know, there may be bugs if you mess that up. So I don't think there are though, because I know Seattle makes that mistake all the time. So yeah, you don't have to worry about your casing, I don't think. I like to make them the same just because I'm anal about that stuff. Again, this is running vertically, so I'm going to check the vertical box. Part number. So let's go back to our detail. 03D is the call out for a brake shape, 1/8 inch brake shape. I don't want to use that for a part number, so I'm probably just going to make up a part number. I don't know if you guys do brake shapes this way. We do in Fremont. At least we definitely used to do that. I don't know. I think we are still doing the same thing. It might not be in AutoCAD, but we usually just make up a part number for this kind of part. So I'm gonna, and we usually always start it with a BS for brake shape, or cap, the word cap for an end cap or something like that. I'm just gonna call this brake shape, and this one's 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. So I'll do a coast-like part number, something like that. Why not? You guys might have your own standards for that. I'm just going to do that thing. Now, obviously, this part's not going to exist. I'm going to hit apply there. So I'm going to have to make a part drawing for this thing before I can even run layout. Because if I try and run layout on this, well, let's just find out what happens. So it didn't drop anything in because it doesn't know. It doesn't know what this part looks like. So just discard changes. So I found the easiest way to make a part drawing is to, well, actually, before I go on to making new part drawings, any questions about layout? Okay, good. All right, so we're gonna make a new part drawing. The first thing, I usually make these directly from the shop drawings. Whether that's right or wrong is up to you guys to find out, but I usually just take the part and copy it off to the side somewhere. I do that because you want to orient this thing in a certain way so that the fab ticket doesn't look all messed up. So I have on the wiki, if we go to the wiki, so this is the portal. If you haven't seen it before, go to wiki, and then I think it's under glass division. I think it's in die procurement. Maybe I should figure out where this actually is. I made a page. I need to figure out what the name of that page is. Oh, it's not die procurement. I think it's called die process. I think it's under purchasing. I put it somewhere. I just don't remember where. New die process? That sounds pretty good. Yeah, this is it. All right, so you could do a search for new die process. and it should pop up with this. So Heather, the person who does the dies for us, and I think you guys too, one of her tasks when she gets a new die is to publish it to the server so that everyone gets it when they use the Takeoff program, and so they can see the die picture on the portal. But when she does that, she orients the die in a special way so that it jives well with our fab tickets and stuff. And the key here, there's a couple example pictures here. You always want the outside of the building to be to the left. No matter what the part is, that's the number one thing, outside to the left. And you can see all of these parts, if you're familiar with the parts, always to the left. Maybe not perfectly to the left like this guy, but it's still to the left. Second thing is you want one of the large flat faces to be down, or in the case of a horizontal, like a sloped horizontal, to be flat. You don't want that to be, you don't want to, like this slope part, you don't want this large flat surface to be at an angle on this picture, because that just makes your miters weird. Same with corners, you want it to be like that. It makes it hard to cut. You want to tell the shop, when you tell them miter angles, you want to tell them a miter angle that they can actually use on like a table saw or something like that, or a miter box. And the only way they're going to be able to cut this part is by lying it on the flat face. So that's why our fabs are always lying on the flat face. Even this sloped extended cover has a flat face here, and that's probably what they're going to set it on the table, so it's oriented vertically. Some flat face has to be oriented horizontally or vertically, and usually it's the biggest one. So number one, outside of the building to the left. Number two, flat side down for verticals, or some flat side, either horizontal or vertical, in the case of weird shaped sloped parts. I'll put a link to this in the outline. All right, so this thing has, because it's a corner piece, it has two outsides, but neither which are facing left. So I'm going to rotate it like that. I have a flat side down and vertical, so it should be good. So I'm going to orient it like that. Now I need to make the actual die picture, and to do that I usually use the W block command. W block creates a new file based on objects you select in the current file, which is pretty much exactly what I want to do. So W block base point, this actually doesn't matter. I'm going to put it over here. The Takeoff program doesn't care where that base point actually is, so you can kind of do whatever. You can just leave it at 0, 0 or do whatever. The objects I want are these guys. The layer doesn't matter on this. Oh, I should make sure that I can extrude this, because if you make a part drawing and you can't extrude it, it is kind of useless. So one way to check is just to run the region command and select this thing. And if one region is created and the thing is now on layer 0 because your current layer is 0, it should be able to be extruded. So I'll just undo that back. But yeah, I usually use the region command just to check it really fast. If you have a more complicated part like this thing, and I run region on it, it's going to say 2 regions created, because there'll be the outside region and the inside region. So as long as everything becomes a region, you should be okay for extruding. All right, back to W block. Base point doesn't matter. Selecting my P line. One object selected. Now file name and path. So you want to save these in your training folder. So mine is over here somewhere. It could be in documents. Where the heck did I put it? My jobs. There we go. Training, Zach. So this is where my, under the Takeoffs folder, my Takeoff database is in this folder. So under wherever your Takeoff database is, you want to look at the Fabs folder and then the dies folder. and you want to save it in here. The name of the file should be the same as the part number that you want this thing to be. So I named this thing BS 334334 for 3 3/4, 3 by 3 3/4. And that's it there. It puts the path in here. And then you just hit OK. There you go. Done. So let's look at my file browser here. So in my training folder, Takeoffs, Fabs. Oh, see, under Takeoffs is my project, my backend database. Fabs dies. Now I have a BS 334334. So it will look in this folder to pull up that picture for this part number, BS 334334. So now when I run layout, get my fun little message, and here it is. There's the part I just created. I'll have to rotate it around like that and move it into position. Now my tagline isn't right there, right? I moved the tag 1 inch over, so I'm gonna grab that thing and move it over 1 inch like that. So remember to do that. Also, yeah, I guess interior in that direction is fine. It's a little weird now because the tagline's out here, but I guess that's fine. Might bite us later. All right, save changes. Okay, so I saved the layout. Everything here is filled out. You hit apply to save it all. And yeah, that should be good. You can always check these by running layout again. It should reproduce what you had if it correctly saved everything. So I should be able to run that on any of these. Though the face of system might be in the wrong place, but if I grab everything, it should be correct. Like this one. Oh no, it put it in the right place. Face of system there, everything's in the right spot. All right. Any questions about creating new parts or layout or anything else?
Yeah, just to confirm, on our elevation, do we have to select those thick white lines before filling out the project details?
No, you don't.
Okay.
I was just clicking on it to see what detail number I had to make that thing under. You could also turn on the detail bubbles, but sometimes you don't use the same detail bubble that's actually on the drawing when you assign your tagline. So, for example, and it happened a couple times on here. You can see here that the detail for the head is 2 on 502, and then it changes to 512, 1 on 512. And that's because of some surrounding condition that doesn't really matter for my Fabs or my Takeoff. So I just kept the head as the same detail number, 2 on 502, all the way across here. I didn't care about that one. Same thing for some of these other ones. Like here, this jam changes from one detail to another because I'm assuming the surrounding condition changes or some kind of anchoring condition changes. But I named them this. I named this vertical the same. It's 2 on 6 on 565, even though it was a different detail number. So I like to look at the taglines for that kind of decision making. Same with this horizontal here. So yeah, you don't have to select them.
Cool, cool.
All right, good question. Anything else? All right, so I think that's all I had for today. It ended pretty much where I thought it would. So we did the project data stuff. We just put in part numbers. We'll get into more stuff later on that. We ran layout, and we used WBlock to add things to the Fabs dies folder. Homework. So we'll do a created detail and use for each tagline on page 205. Hopefully that won't take more than an hour. So the only things that we care about are having each part and running layout on all those parts. I don't care about any of the other stuff in there because, and neither should you at this point. I don't care about finishes. I don't care about lengths. I don't care about anything else. Just get the part number in there and get the layout. I don't think there's too many. If you focus on elevation 2 here first, get that one definitely done. And we could talk about elevation 1 and 3 bonus points. But most of the stuff that we're going to do is probably going to be on this elevation 2. So make sure you have that one so you can follow along next or tomorrow. And if there are parts on details that you can't do layout on, one of those would be the F clips and T clips at the top here. Something that you can't really see the shape of it in the detail. Like here, there's this crazy T-clip thing that you can't run a layout on this part, and there's no detail that shows you what this layout would look like. And we don't even have a tagline for it. Those kind of parts, you can just skip those for now. And you can also skip the F clips and T clips because we'll talk about those first thing tomorrow. All right. Any last minute questions? All right, cool. So tomorrow we'll do UPD and BIM, and we'll try and get some of the lengths right. And we'll also add those taglines for the F clips and T clips, as promised. All right. Cool, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you.